The first thing they don't tell you about the end of the world is how ordinary the sky looks. No trumpets, no cracks in reality, no cinematic lightning. Just low clouds over a small American city that had already stopped being a city by the time I got there. My first shift as a cop was supposed to start with a handshake at the front desk of the Raccoon Police Department. Instead, I parked on the edge of town and watched a shambling silhouette in the headlights turn toward me with half its face missing. People like to joke that my career began with a hangover and a late arrival. The truth is, I was right on time. The world was just already over. By the time I reached the station, it was less a workplace and more a fortress under siege. The lights still flickered, the coffee in the break room was still half full, the bulletin board still had lost dog flyers pinned to it, and the hallways were smeared with blood and lined with bodies that didn't understand they were supposed to stay down. The manual had chapters on active shooters, hostage situations, even chemical spills. Nothing on what to do when your colleagues are banging on the safety glass from the wrong side, jaws unhinged, eyes filmed over. In the academy, they tell you to aim center mass. That night, I learned how to ignore everything in a human face except the point between the eyebrows. I didn't go through that building alone. Fate, luck, whatever you want to call it, threw other survivors into my orbit. A young woman looking for her brother. A kid who'd lost both parents in the span of a single night. A woman in a red dress who knew far too much about what was really happening under our feet and just enough about me to keep me moving. We weren't a team. We were loose pieces of a puzzle that someone else had designed, trying not to fall into the gaps. Umbrella, G-Virus, underground labs beneath a Midwestern police station. If you saw it in a movie, you'd roll your eyes. If you saw it up close, you'd burn the film. The city died in layers. First the phones went down. Then the power grids failed, one sector at a time. By the time we understood that help wasn't coming, the word help had already changed meaning. Survival stopped being about holding a line and became about finding any exit that didn't end with teeth in your throat. I remember stepping out onto the street as dawn tried to break through the smoke and realizing that the horizon was wrong. There was no skyline, just pillars of flame and the curved silhouettes of attack aircraft that weren't there to extract anyone. The decision to erase Raccoon City was made far above my pay grade, but I was there to hear the sound it made when a place you just risked your life to protect was written off as containment. After that, the silence was the loudest thing in the world. No sirens, no traffic, just the hum of generators in a temporary quarantine camp and the low murmur of people trying not to say what they'd seen. They separated us fast. Medical on one side, debriefing on the other. You could tell who belonged to which group by the questions they asked. Doctors asked if you were sleeping, if you heard voices, if you could eat. The men in suits asked for timelines, access points, lab locations, names. Lots of questions about names. Those were the ones I ended up working for. They never called it recruitment. They called it next steps. I was a young cop who had held it together in a scenario that should have left nothing but statistics. They knew exactly how many rounds I'd fired, how long I'd stayed in the station, how many contaminated areas I'd passed through. All that data went into an equation, and the result was simple. This asset is too valuable to release. So they dressed it up in patriotism and necessity. There would be more incidents. There already had been. They said, you just didn't hear about them on the news. They needed people with proven field resilience and first-hand biohazard exposure. They needed someone like me. They gave me a choice with a smile. A monitored, carefully constrained life under protection, where my story would be classified and my future would fit on a single form. Or a position in a specialized security unit reporting directly to higher UPS, tasked with preventing another Raccoon City. Help us fix the problem, Leon. Help us make sure no one else goes through what you did. It sounds noble when you're 21 and guilty about every scream you didn't manage to silence in time. It sounds less noble when you realize you signed a contract that essentially says your body and whatever's left of your sanity now belong to a 3-letter acronym. Years later, sitting in briefing rooms with no windows, I would see that name, Raccoon City, projected on a screen as a case study. a learning opportunity, a slide between bullet points. But at the time, all I could see was an outstretched hand promising that my trauma had a purpose. I took it. Officially, my first big assignment as a federal agent was to rescue the president's daughter. You'd be surprised how often that line gets me a laugh from people who don't know I mean it literally. Ashley Graham, kidnapped by a cult in rural Spain with an interest in a parasite they called Las Plagas. Unofficially, I was also there to make sure that whatever they had in their wells, their church basements, their underground labs, never reached a plane, a ship, or a server farm. Parasitic organisms that didn't rot flesh, but rewired allegiance. Not zombies this time. Something worse. People who could hold a pitchfork and a conversation while sharing one mind. The village looked like every postcard of traditional Europe you've ever seen, if you ignored the way the locals looked at you like you were already meat. Narrow streets, stone houses, a bell tower that called more than just the faithful. No shuffling ghouls. No groaning hordes. Just farmers and fishermen who moved in eerie unison when the wrong words were spoken. When you've seen virus work, you can smell infection from a corridor away. Plaga was different. It hid behind intact skin and polite phrases. Only when the head tilted just a bit too far, when the eyes stayed a little too empty, did you see the thing under the surface. I've been asked what it's like carrying the president's daughter through a crowd of bodies that used to be her neighbors, her teachers, her grocery clerks. It's like walking across a field of landmines that all know your name. Every step a calculation. If I put her down to reload, I might not get another chance to pick her back up. If I move too fast, she falls. If I move too slow, we both become vessels for something that doesn't care who her father is. Duty stops being abstract very quickly when it's screaming in your ear and clinging to your neck, asking if we're going to die. We cut our way through villagers, through castle fanatics with too much money and not enough conscience, through a man in robes who talked about salvation while designing mass subjugation. We destroyed the heart of the operation, tore the parasite out of our own bodies before it could dig in, and left behind a smoking crater where a new kind of empire might have grown. The report was stamped as a success. Ashley went home. The president shook my hand. The headlines, what little they hinted at, called it a terrorist incident abroad. No one mentioned Plaga. No one mentioned how close we'd come to a future where a single voice could whisper into millions of nervous systems at once. You'd think saving the president's daughter would be the peak. It wasn't. It was a proof of concept. For them, I mean, they had tested me in a city that died and a village that almost gave birth to a new kind of slavery. I didn't break. I adapted. I followed orders, made my own calls when communications went dark, got the asset home. That's the kind of performance review that gets you promoted in the circles I move in. Promoted to where, you ask? To the front rows of every major biohazard incident that was never fully explained to the public. Tall Oaks, Ivy University, another outbreak, another terrorist act. Only this time, the infection walked in wearing a familiar face, the President of the United States, the same man whose daughter I had dragged out of a cursed village. The man who had privately admitted to me that he wanted to declassify Raccoon City, to tell the truth, to stop the cycle of cover UPS and plausible deniability. He never got the chance. The pathogen did not care about intent. The thing under his skin didn't read speeches. It lunged. There are decisions you hope you never have to make. Shooting the leader of the free world at close range to prevent him from ripping out your throat and infecting everyone in the room is one of them. The shot was clean. The shot was necessary. The shot also erased the last person in power I had allowed myself to believe might actually change something. The fallout was predictable, a cover story, an internal investigation, accusations, scapegoats. I was questioned, doubted, implicated, then redeployed. You don't retire an asset like me over something as small as killing an infected president. You simply move him to the next fire. Somewhere along the line, the missions started blurring together. Eastern Europe, South America, airports, cruise ships, research facilities, under abandoned cities. Different coordinates, same architecture. A conspiracy built on biology, a corporation or a faction tinkering where they shouldn't, a government willing to tolerate it until it gets too public. Each time, the language in my briefings shifted just slightly, but the core stayed the same. Protect national security. Maintain stability. Eliminate threats. Threats, I noticed, rarely included the people signing off on the experiments. What does that do to a person? You stop measuring your life in birthdays and holidays and start measuring it in strains and strains plus. T-virus, G-virus, plaga, C-virus. Letters that might as well be headstones for towns that no longer exist. Every new agent who joins thinks they're here to stop the next umbrella. The rest of us know umbrella was never just a company. It was an idea that profit and power justify whatever you cook up in a petri dish. Ideas don't go bankrupt. They just change their letterhead. I've lost count of how many times I've woken up in a safe house and needed a second to remember what country I'm in, what language I'm supposed to dream in. Names slip away. Faces don't. I remember a girl in a blue vest aiming a gun at my head in a hallway full of corpses and deciding to trust me anyway. I remember a woman in red who kept walking into my life and out of it like she had a key to every emergency exit I didn't know existed. I remember a kid on a subway platform asking if the monsters would find us underground. I remember the president's eyes just before they clouded over. People talk about courage like it's the absence of fear. They're wrong. Courage in my line of work is fear that learned how to walk. You feel it every time you step into a room that might not let you back out. It sharpens your aim when your hands start to shake. It also eats you alive when you try to close your eyes. I can clear a hallway in under 10 seconds, but I haven't had an unbroken night's sleep since '98. Somewhere between Raccoon and Tall Oaks, insomnia stopped being a side effect and became a lifestyle. I don't keep many personal belongings. A couple of changes of clothes. A toothbrush that migrates from safe house to safe house. A photo or two that ended up in my wallet and never found their way to a frame. I own property on paper. I'm sure there are accounts in my name, benefits accrued, pensions promised. That's for another version of me, one that makes it to 60 and has the luxury of learning how to be bored. I don't plan that far ahead. In my world, planning for next month is optimism. Planning for next year is fiction. So where does that leave me now, canon and all? Officially, Leon S. Kennedy is a seasoned agent with years of experience combating bioterrorism, a man the government trusts to handle its worst nightmares in the dark so the public can sleep. Unofficially, I'm the guy they point at problems they'd prefer never make it into the history books. I'm a moving part in a machine that claims to hate monsters while quietly feeding the industries that create them.